Good morning, Wabash. Speaking today at Pioneer Chapel will be Julian Whitney with his talk titled, The Next Frontier, Global Citizenship in the 2030s. Julian Whitney is a Byron K. Trippett Assistant Professor in the English Department at Wabash College. He received his bachelor's degree from Haverford College in 2010 and his PhD from Emory University in 2018. He specializes in English Romanticism with an emphasis on eco-criticism, the Black Atlantic, and the Shelley Byron Circle. Originally from the Bronx in New York City, Julian lived in several different states before arriving at Wabash in 2020. Outside of teaching, he enjoys tennis, electric guitar, swimming along the many beaches of Lake Michigan, Japanese pop culture, and Julian currently resides in Indianapolis, Indiana. Let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Whitney.
How's everybody doing? Good morning, Wabash. I want to extend my gratitude to the Sphinx Club for giving me the opportunity to address the Wabash College community. Today marks my very first chapel talk since joining the faculty in August 2020. Now in my 6th year at the college, thank you. I am currently undergoing my tenure review with an interest in the future, often considering what a long-term career at Wabash will look like, particularly given the challenging reality of being just one of 2 Black faculty. In the spirit of futurity, I wish to speak to you all about a new horizon, the next frontier of our collective journey as citizens of the world. Wabash must prepare its students for the imminent challenges of the 21st century, and my responsibility as a professor and as a global citizen is to articulate a transparent vision of the world you will soon inherit. As of December 4th, 2025, we are less than 5 years away from the dawn of a new decade. The 2030s will inevitably become shaped by the very students in this chapel. You will emerge into a world requiring more empathy, greater self-awareness, and a nuanced understanding of the global citizenship that our society so desperately needs. But what are the core principles, aspirations, and beliefs of global citizens, individuals who serve as architects of generational change? The term global citizenship, in the broadest sense, refers to the self-conscious practice of dedicating yourself and your unique gifts to the greater service of humankind. A global citizen appreciates the lessons of history, advocates for a shared humanity, and devotes oneself to the romantic vision of creating a more just and equitable future. The global citizen embraces the artistic imagination, adapts to cultural transformation, and views skeptically our technological evolution. Simply put, the global citizen continues a recurring cycle of human rebirth in which we strive to reimagine ourselves and our world in an ongoing struggle of human perfectibility. I wish to emphasize that the global citizen recognizes that their time on this planet is ephemeral and must be used for the benefit of the global community. Rather than think purely in terms of present concerns, the global citizen must also consider the legacy being left to future generations. What impact, if any, will you leave on the world inherited by your future counterparts? How will you use your talents, skills, and gifts in the service of something larger than yourself? These are the questions a global citizen asks and must answer when thinking about the future beyond the distant horizon, the next frontier. As an English professor, I strongly believe in the extraordinary powers of literature and writing as tools for self-expression, critical thinking, and civic engagement. Whether it's David Foster Wallace's essays on tennis, Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye, Hajime Isayama's Attack on Titan, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, I encourage students to inhabit the text, uncover its secrets, and discover how it offers us a lens through which to understand our world. Let it be known then that in the current age of artificial intelligence, social media platforms, and parasocial networks, there is still no higher expression of civic duty than that of reading. In a world dominated by the image, the video, clickbait, subscription services for streaming, and content creation, my question to you all is, what have you read lately? When is the last time you surrendered yourself to the intoxicating allure of a book? How many hours do you devote a day to appreciating the immersive elegance of the written word? I ask because the fundamental query here is whether you understand that the global citizen is naturally curious, never settling for convenient or easy answers, always deciding to learn more. And the only way to fully develop your own philosophy of citizenship is to read as an act of reimagining yourself within the broader narrative of human history. Yes, the 2030s will undoubtedly require students to demonstrate greater sophistication in using emerging technologies around artificial intelligence. The global economy will surely shift if we embrace these systems and integrate them into the sectors of education, medicine, commerce, trade, the military-industrial complex, and politics. But even if everyone in this chapel becomes exceptionally well-versed in using artificial intelligence, what will distinguish you from your international competition if everyone is the same? How will you assert your own individuality in a cyberpunk environment in which imitation and derivative skills have become routine? I cannot claim to know exactly how these technology agents will shape humanity's future, but I do know this. Artificial intelligence did not teach me how to execute my graceful forehand shot in tennis. 3.5 years of tennis lessons with Coach Daniel Bickett taught me that. Artificial intelligence did not teach me how to master Kurt Cobain's Smells Like Teen Spirit or Jimi Hendrix's Purple Haze on electric guitar. 4.5 years of assiduous repetition, daily practice sessions, and weekly guitar lessons taught me that. Artificial intelligence certainly did not teach me how to speak Japanese. Multicolored flashcards, memory drill sessions, language workbooks, and an intensive summer language course at Beloit College in Wisconsin taught me that. In my opinion, the defining citizenship question of the 2030s will not be how many generative AI programs you know how to use. Rather, the suffocating influx of artificial intelligence will prompt a different question. How are you superior to a program that aims to replace you? What can you do that AI cannot? While relying on generative AI is understandably tempting for its ease and convenience, remember that your Wabash education rests upon a more fundamental premise, that the humanity of a citizen is truly irreplaceable. Beyond technological advancement, the 2030s will also require an exercise of global citizenship to confront the most daunting crisis of our time, the existential threat of climate change to the animal, plant, and human species. Since the dawn of the 21st century, we have experienced accelerating, sometimes radical shifts in temperature, global migration patterns, water scarcity, energy use, and the destructive nature of environmental disasters. Hurricane Katrina in 2005, Deepwater Horizon in 2010, historic droughts in Utah and California, devastating fires in the woodland forests of Canada and the tropical islands of Hawaii, lead contamination in Flint, Michigan's local water supply, rising sea levels, melting glaciers, annual heat waves, and Hurricane Helene's catastrophic destruction of western North Carolina in 2024. These events reflect a fundamental truth about the integral connection we share with the planet itself. Since our survival as a human species depends entirely upon the vicissitudes of climate change, then our civic duty as climatological agents of Earth necessitates that we practice a stewardship of the environment that respects its bounty. Consider for a moment the natural wonders of the Indiana Dunes, Yellowstone, Lake Michigan, the Great Smoky Mountains, the Everglades, and so many locales that exemplify the diverse ecosystems of the planet. There is no guarantee that these natural heirlooms, which have been passed down through generations, will continue to exist if we fail to address the issue of carbon pollution. We have already seen how dehydrated climates can cause food shortages, resulting in higher grocery prices. We are witnessing firsthand how consistent climate disasters are redistributing population centers across the United States. As these events accelerate in frequency, I am looking right now in front of me at the students in this chapel to see how you plan to address these issues and champion a sustainable future. What new ideas will you come up with to shepherd our world in the right direction regarding climate action? Maybe you can begin by experiencing Horizon Zero Dawn, a 2017 open-world action role-playing game about climate disaster, rogue AI technologies, and the crisis of preserving the knowledge of human culture. In that narrative, you must explore a 31st century post-apocalyptic United States ravaged by corrupt AI programs, so be careful. I am also thinking of Final Fantasy VII Remake, of course, a 2020 Japanese role-playing game about an energy megacorporation that extracts the planet's life force energy to satisfy the capitalist vices of human greed and overconsumption. These video games, in my opinion, reinforce how environmental stewardship should remain the bedrock of our shared existence on Earth. And you, the students, who are most likely to live to see the finale of the 21st century, must do your civic duty to ensure that the 2030s are a decade of joint responsibility and action towards the climate crisis. I understand that this effort may appear unwieldy and beyond your control, but know that the global citizen does not shrink from an opportunity to shape the future. In my own work as a researcher and scholar of British Romanticism, I have learned to appreciate the prescient wisdom of Mary Shelley, Lord Byron, Percy Shelley, and Charlotte Smith, writers who used their literature to explore the climate realities of their time. However, it was not until I visited Lake Michigan, swing alongside the sand-swept beaches of the Indiana Dunes State Park, that I felt their climate concerns come alive. The drive to the dunes from Indianapolis feels like a side quest, an I-65 route that takes you through the hypnotic wind farms of north-central Indiana before witnessing the steel mills of Gary and Portage. Swimming in Lake Michigan feels serene with its pristine waters set against the picturesque backdrop of Chicago's hazy skyline silhouette in the far distance. The steel mills, mechanical monuments of Indiana's industrial past, release their exhaust fumes into the atmosphere. As I wonder whether these beaches will exist in another 100 years, I am reminded of Charlotte Smith, whose famous eco-poem, Beachy Head, captures the gentle purity of a beach. Quote, "The high meridian of the day is past, and now ocean, reflecting the calm heaven, is of cerulean hue, and murmurs low, the tide of ebb upon the level sands." End quote. At this moment, I notice the ecological decay, even as I relish the breathtaking sight of an endless blue expanse. Once you have identified your contribution to the environment, the calling of the global citizen will require your participation in another pressing issue of the 2030s, rebuilding and safeguarding the integrity of our artistic and cultural institutions. Make no mistake about this. Without question, we are currently experiencing an all-out assault on the sacred values of artistic freedom and cultural education, touchstones of a free democratic society. Under the current presidential administration, we have borne witness to art turned into propaganda, history erased into ignorance, and cultural diversity transformed into blind loyalty towards one man. As we continue to navigate the rough waters of an executive vessel stranded at sea, let us recall the true purpose of art and culture in a society. In 1963, President John F. Kennedy delivered remarks at Amherst College in Massachusetts, articulating the civic value of cultural and artistic expression as he commemorated the legacy of poet Robert Frost. Speaking about the artist, President Kennedy declared that, quote, "The artist, however faithful to his personal vision of reality, becomes the last champion of the individual mind and sensibility against an intrusive society and an officious state." With these words, President Kennedy exemplified the artist as an aesthetic icon of freedom in a democratic society. When faced with the impending threats of political censorship, ideological purity, and authoritarian peril, the artist becomes the last bastion of resistance against a corrupt state that tries to control through fear. When individual freedom of expression is undermined by an autocratic regime that seeks to distract its citizens with social media clickbait, disinformation, and manufactured outrage, the artist remains a stalwart defender of democratic ideals. Let it be known, then, that when a president unilaterally dissolves the entire board for the John F. Kennedy Center for the Arts, the flagship cultural center of the United States, and appoints himself chairman, that president does not value the role of art in society. Likewise, a president that issues executive orders to whitewash and erase the history told in our Smithsonian museums does not appreciate the cultural complexities of this nation. A global citizen is obligated to confront the truth, no matter how harsh, uncomfortable, or inconvenient it may be. To abandon this responsibility amounts to outright ignorance and self-denial. So, let this be an admonition to the Wabash community that refusing to address the blatant problem of Black faculty representation, no matter how painful, reflects a critical failure of the college to live up to its own civic responsibilities. As Wabash students, you are surrounded by manifestations of art and culture as part of a living and learning liberal arts community. Chamber orchestra concerts, art gallery events, theatrical dramas and productions, invited poets, fiction writers, and presidential speakers. In fact, a familiar refrain here is that we have too many events on campus. But once you graduate from Wabash, your civic obligation now becomes to continue supporting the arts so that we can preserve them for future generations. So, if you are graduating with a major in financial economics and have a job lined up in corporate finance on Wall Street, make a habit of attending Broadway shows and stand-up comedy events. Purchase that membership for the New York Philharmonic. If you're moving to Indianapolis but miss the wonders of Wabash College Theater, obtain season tickets for the Indiana Repertory Theater. Hoping to relocate to Chicago? Check out the Chicago International Film Festival. After all, one of the best ways to create community is through the arts. Regardless of your future career, understand that attending a residential liberal arts institution means you have a responsibility to articulate the indispensable role of art and culture in our society. We are not educating you to become unempathetic automatons. We are educating you to become culturally sensitive global citizens, fully ready to write the next chapter in human history. In my early years at Wabash, students would often ask me the same question: how did you end up here? Or even more pointedly, what has your experience been like as a Black faculty member at Wabash? I answer honestly, explaining the academic job market and describing why Wabash would be a difficult transition for any Black professor. When I reflect on my own academic journey, I am still perplexed by the unusual experience of having taught at 2 single-sex men's colleges. I think back to the many places I inhabited on this journey and the critical role of travel as a component of citizenship. For those unaware, I was raised the only child of a disabled single mother in the predominantly Black and Hispanic borough of the Bronx in New York City. Having spent my formative years in the hard-scrabble neighborhoods of Parkchester and Soundview, I always grew up wanting to venture out of New York City. Maybe that explains why, as a young kid, and even now as an adult, I remain deeply, almost obsessively captivated by popular video game franchises like Horizon, Uncharted, Kingdom Hearts, and Final Fantasy. I enjoy role-playing as the energetic young hero who is determined to save the world. If this is my origin story, then my formation as a Final Fantasy protagonist started when I finally left home to attend Haverford College in the Philadelphia suburbs. I quickly immersed myself in music and literature, developing a specific love of romanticism. I experienced my first civic awakening when, as a first-time eligible voter, I helped elect Barack Obama as the nation's first black president. That moment signified a turning point, one in which I saw myself changing this nation, a signature event that inspired me to re-examine how I wanted to shape the world. Soon after, I began telling friends that I would one day return to Haverford, but in a historically distinctive context, as the college's first black president. So, Dean McDormand, I'll be looking forward to your letter of recommendation. Since then, my travels have taken me to Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia for a PhD in English, Hampden-Sydney College in Farmville, Virginia for a 2-year visiting assistant position, and now Wabash College in Crawfordsville, Indiana for a tenure-track position. Along the way, I have traveled to the beaches of Santa Barbara, California, the Flatirons of Boulder, Colorado, the beautiful Lake District of Northwest England, and as of last year, thanks to Dr. Agata Brewer and her War and Literature Immersion course, the incredible cities of Warsaw and Krakow in Poland. I cherish these experiences because they reflect the most fundamental principle that animates any global citizen, a desire to see the world. Many of you who have studied abroad and taken an immersion course understand that sensation of exploring new horizons, that insatiable desire to visit new lands, meet new people, and appreciate the world from a different perspective. But beyond these core reasons, the global citizen travels for an additional purpose: to learn humility. For example, as a native New Yorker, my own understanding of my black identity was enmeshed within a distinctive urban context. Growing up, I had never considered how black Americans in the Midwest, for instance, had to develop their identities differently within a rural environment. Upon moving to Atlanta, Georgia, I immersed myself in a rich Southern culture noticeably absent from my experience in the Bronx. Even most recently with the immersion course to Poland, I acquired a greater appreciation for human rights, world history, and the enduring global struggle against the cross-generational trauma of discrimination. Indeed, travel offers a rare opportunity to situate ourselves within the broader stories of human history. In other words, the individual is no longer the center of attention. You learn that despite what we are often told, the United States of America, while purportedly exceptional, is not the center of the universe. You discover that in many ways, the United States struggles to grapple with its own mistakes, oftentimes choosing the easy distraction over the difficult truth. Consider, for example, the inhumanity of ongoing ICE raids and mass deportations, an operation of intentional cruelty that exposes the bitter reality of America's painful history of state-sanctioned xenophobia. The global citizen not only realizes this tension, but actively confronts it. As you navigate the world of the 2030s, you will need to negotiate this tension as well. So, start making a curated list of the locations you want to visit. If you are intending on some international travel, consider learning a new language. Find out how the United States situates itself within a larger global community filled with many different cultures. Remember that after graduation, you aren't just alumni of Wabash College, you are now critical ambassadors of the liberal arts to our world. And so, I want to end my chapel talk by reflecting on a memoir I recently finished that probes global citizenship in our time. Over Thanksgiving, I finally completed Barack Obama's mammoth 700-page presidential memoir titled A Promised Land, in which he chronicles the signature events of his historic 2008 election and first term in office. Throughout the memoir, Obama details the major policy decisions that defined his early presidency, responding to the financial crisis, securing the votes for universal health care, managing the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, addressing the existential concern of climate change, and orchestrating the raid that killed Osama bin Laden. However, despite the book's vivid details of these events, Obama never quite identifies the supposed promised land we as citizens are apparently searching for. When all is said and done, what kind of world are we trying to create? By what metrics do we measure our success? Will we even locate this promised land in our own lifetimes? Maybe the answer is that the promised land is not necessarily a destination, but rather the idea of global citizenship itself. If nothing else, we have learned since the dawn of this century that America, and by extension the world, is currently undergoing a rapid transformation that will have extraordinary ramifications for future generations. Simply keeping pace is half the battle. But one truth remains amid these unpredictable changes. No matter what the next decade brings, never underestimate the amazing power of ordinary citizens to shape the debates of our time. No matter what the social media platforms and AI algorithms say, we, as citizens of the world, get to determine the sort of world we want to live in. So, my challenge to you, the students, is this. When you leave Wabash, what will your contribution be to the world? How will you exercise your power of global citizenship to build a world worthy enough for the generation that comes after you? It's time for you to get to work. The promised land is waiting. Thank you.
A few final announcements. Tomorrow, wrestling takes on Trine. And then on Saturday, basketball faces Oberlin. I want to take this time to extend my complete gratitude. My time as president has been transformative, and it has been an honor to stand before you all. Behind me is a man committed to fostering campus unity and upholding the traditions of Wabash College, and I see no one better for the job than him. Introducing the new president of the Sphinx Club, Carrick Johnson.
Good morning, Wabash. Thank you all for attending. Now, will you please rise and join me in the singing of Old Wabash? From the hills that make the western plain, or where the cotton's blowing, gloomy shade of the